and gentlemen, welcome back to Marketing Monday Wins and Fails. Today, I have some very special news for you. Normally, on this show, we talk about everything going on in the world of business, and the world of business is not always pretty. Sometimes the news is a little bit grim, a little bit doomer, a little bit dangerous, and people here get sad sometimes. And they ask me, Atrioc, why don't we have any wins, any real authentic wins? So today, I'm happy to tell you, this is a Marketing Monday Oops All Wins edition, because we have found a bunch of actually good news happening in the world of marketing and business that you might want to hear about. And all of it at the beginning will center around something very near and dear to my heart. The Federal Trade Commission. Their mission is to protect America's consumers. And if you don't know who they are, that's because for most of your life, they haven't done anything. Until very recently, with the appointment of this woman, Lina. Now, we'll get into a lot more about Lina later, but I want to give you this background. When she joined in 2021, she said, evidence suggests that decades of mergers have been a key driver of weakened competition. Many Americans have lost out with diminished opportunity, higher prices, lower wages, and lagging innovation. And she wanted the FTC to finally step in and do some of what it used to do, which is regulate mergers, break up big consolidated companies, and look out for workers and average people. And some of their first swings were failures. They tried to stop the Activision Blizzard Microsoft thing, Amgen acquiring Horizon Therapeutics, ICE taking over Black Knight for $13 billion. It went through. But some of what they did slowed things down or made the corporations not get exactly everything they wanted. Things like they're blocking Tapestry's acquisition of Capri, Kroger's acquisition of Albertsons, Amazon's monopoly power is currently being challenged in court. MGM Resorts had a gigantic hack where a ton of customer data was revealed. The FTC started looking into it and MGM sued them, which means FTC's on the right track. And then what I want to tell you about is some recent stuff that can only be in my mind called unequivocal wins. And I want to start with this one right here at the top, about non-compete agreements. A non-compete agreement is basically an employment contract that you'll sign when you first get a job that says whether we fire you or whether you quit, you cannot go work for a competitor to our business for at least a certain number of months, weeks, years. And 1 in 5 American workers, 30 million people, are currently locked into a non-compete agreement. Now, that is way too many because the original idea for the creation of non-competes was to be for senior level executives who had exclusive proprietary knowledge. If you looked at Coca-Cola and you knew the secret formula, you couldn't go quit and work for Pepsi. That was the idea. But instead, they have been used to chain workers to jobs they don't want to be in. They catch millions of workers in the non-compete trap. Let me give you some examples. After 22 years working as a nurse, Laura wanted a change, but she had a non-compete in her employment contract that said she couldn't work for any competitor in the healthcare industry within 30 miles for at least 2 years. Now, they were underpaying her, and when she asked to leave, they threatened her, saying she would not be able to get her annual bonus and she would have to run any job application she took past them, which she refused to do. Now, to avoid their harassment, she has to do a 75-minute drive to a new job past several other hospitals that were off limits. They're being abused to keep her working for bad pay at the hospital near her. Let me give you a more extreme example. These are workers, sandwich artists at Jimmy John's. Turns out they had a non-compete clause. Their trade secrets of making the sandwich art at Jimmy John's, and they were not allowed to work with any competitor to Jimmy John's for months, if not years, after their employment. Now, we took one example from a guy that worked at a Jimmy John's in Chicago. This was the red area he could not work in at any food service company. How the fuck is this man supposed to find another job? And that allows Jimmy John's to keep wages lower than they would have to be. Because imagine if this guy wanted to work at Wendy's or something and they offered better pay. He couldn't if it was in these red areas. Defenders of the non-compete clause will say it's important for giving business owners the ability to invest in their business and not lose anything. Looking at the real world, that example completely falls apart because California has banned non-competes for a very long time and they have Silicon Valley. Intel only exists because I think it was like Sheckley Semiconductors didn't have a non-compete. People could leave and start their own business. NVIDIA was started by Jensen Huang leaving. People leave and they start their own business in a field they understand, and it creates more competition and more businesses. Every lawyer, the Bar Association, has banned non-competes altogether. No lawyer recognizes them at all. They do when they're working for a corporation and threatening a regular worker, but lawyers never bind it for themselves. So if you are in a non-compete and you somehow pass the bar, you are now free from it, no matter what you were in. But the FTC has been planning this attack on non-competes for a very long time. So finally, this was banned. As of less than a week ago, the FTC outlawed non-competes altogether. No new ones can be created. All the old ones will phase out in 120 days. The only loopholes are for already created ones for salaries over 150K, where there's going to be some process. But for the average rank and file worker, you are no longer bound by a non-compete very soon. And this is great news. I mean, this is an unequivocal win. I don't see any real downside for average people. They say it'll generate over 8,500 new businesses as workers are free to leave and start their own business with their own knowledge. It'll raise worker wages because they actually have to compete. It'll lower healthcare costs and it'll boost innovation. And immediately it caused a shockwave on Wall Street. Many businesses that rely on the ability to suppress wages were scrambling. What was interesting in this article was that people that work on Wall Street, again, the workers, actually love it. This is a guy who works as a quant on Wall Street. Again, this guy's a rich guy, but he's getting abused by more rich guys. I'm really a fan of the FTC on this because hedge funds abuse these provisions. Businesses are going to get built and destroyed because of this rule. This is the beginning of real change. For Wall Street professionals, the end of non-competes could force employers to give them positive reasons to stay on the job rather than using legal agreements to tie them down, which should be your human right to choose where you want to work. For gamers, game devs are rejoicing about this. Again, many AAA game devs have abused non-competes to keep developers from going out and starting their own indie dev. With all the layoffs happening from AAA devs in gaming, this is a perfect time for these devs to go and start their own projects. But many of them weren't able to because of non-compete. This is awesome. And that's why I have to say that, of course, they're going to fight back against it. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has already filed a lawsuit. The firms and their lobbyists will fight this, said one corporate attorney, who again asked not to be named. And this is important because as you look into this, you will realize that everybody who's against this is deathly afraid of using their name because they all know this is such a good thing. They don't want to be seen as fighting it. However, they really fucking want to fight it. But they're going to try behind closed doors and in court to slow this down and fight it. And I'm really hoping that this is a unequivocally good thing for workers and has been one of the best pieces of legislation passed in America in a while. It is just a win for the average person on a broad-based level. And that's the second part of this story, because this is a big win, but I want you to understand that you probably don't know too much about FTC Chair Lina Khan, and you shouldn't have to. I think it is our God-given right as Americans to not know anyone in government except maybe the president. I don't need to know shit, and I don't have to care. That's fine. I don't blame you. However, when you hear about Lina Khan, you may hear about it in a negative context, and I want to give you a little bit of backstory. Wall Street fucking hates Lina Khan. People with money really hate Lina Khan. In fact, I want to tell you, the headline of why you might want to trust her is that both Republicans and Democrat donors hate Lina Khan. It's apolitical. The rich donors don't like her because she blocks big mergers that make them a lot of money. Her pro-consumer enforcement, it makes it harder for them to extract value from the average person and employee. You will probably hear some kind of piece that is going to demonize her or say she's ineffective or find some way to undermine her credibility. But I have to say, I don't think she's perfect. I don't think she handled every case perfectly, but the FTC is finally doing something. It is finally standing up for consumers, and I'm very much pro that. I'm very positive in that direction. So when I see attacks from one political party or the other, I have to let you know that I don't feel there's truth behind them. Anyone talking to deal makers over the past year will have noticed they have been barely capable of hiding their loathing for Khan. They call her anti-American and against business. They are lobbying Biden to drop her if he gets reelected. That's how badly they want her out of the FTC. There's political cartoons you might see of Lina Khan and her big government thumbs stepping on regulations to stop entrepreneurs' hopes and dreams. But it's not entrepreneurs being hurt by this. Because when you look into it, in fact, deal making, as in like companies buying or merging with others, has fallen in dollar terms, but the overall number of deals is above average, which basically means regular small deals have gone ahead just fine. Only mega deals are getting blocked. So the only people hurting by this are not entrepreneurs, but multi-billionaires trying to consolidate two gigantic firms together to control the market. For example, the Wall Street Journal has been extremely critical of Lina Khan. The entire editorial board wrote this thing, Lina Khan wears Prada, about her trying to block the merger of these two companies. Again, Tapestry, which owns Coach, Stuart Weitzman and Kate Spade, and Capri, which owns Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, and Versace. Lina Khan blocked it on the idea that many average middle American, mostly women, buy these, they're not quite luxury handbags, they're like middle-class luxury, and that you merging them all will allow you to charge higher prices and bump people out. The editorial board of the Wall Street Journal said, what the hell are you talking about? You're redefining the luxury market. What you made up these terms, accessible luxury, affordable handbag, most middle Americans consider them luxury. The problem is, if you scroll back even a few months in the Wall Street Journal, they use those exact same terms. They talk about Coach and Michael Kors using accessible luxury to grow that category. So, it's absurd. I find the criticism to be mostly absurd. Another big win. Rarely does our government ever do anything that's positive. So when it happens, I like to celebrate it. If you are someone who files taxes in a few select states, I think it was 12 states, you may have noticed, if you are a regular W-2 earner, that you could use a free tax filing program from the IRS. Well, 140,000 people used it, and it saved them $5.6 million in prep fees. You did not need to use TurboTax's lobbying-based scam. People used it. It was easy. They put in their W-2. It cost them nothing, and they were done. Because it did so well, they are trying to roll this out nationwide. But of course, who's trying to stop it? TurboTax. That being said, because it did so well, I'm very optimistic. If we can get this out in 50 states, it's a huge win to catching America up to other countries that have this free, easy tax filing every year. Sam Levine of the FTC, this guy, you definitely don't know this guy because he's a deputy to Lina Khan, but he has helped with restoring net neutrality and said, we looked at the internet and it has become shittier. The in-shitification of the internet is real. Basically, everything is turning into a slot machine tied to a few big companies. And the internet could be better. And they are trying to make regulations that bring us back to that better era. That is accurate. So I'm happy about this. And I'm excited to see, where that goes. But the first step was the return of net neutrality, which had been repealed a few years ago, which means that cable companies cannot throttle you based on what traffic is being gone through. Finally, last big win. This is more of a small win, but I want to mention it anyway. You've ever seen this sticker like this? Made in the USA, made in America. Well, it turns out a lot of these are lies. It turns out for the longest time, this is completely unenforced. If the FTC ever even noticed it back in the day, they would just say, hey, don't do that. But there would be no fine, there would be no follow-up, there would be no publicizing it, there would be no problem. And so companies realized they could just slap that on anything and make a little bit more money. And one of the biggest offenders was furniture company Williams-Sonoma. Now in 2020, the FTC said, hey, we're gonna fine you $1 million. Now, for a big company, that's not a lot of money, but it was the biggest fine they had done so far. 25 years of not enforcing it. Finally, they enforce it. Well, Williams-Sonoma paid the fine and then just kept doing it. So recently, the fine tripled. Now again, this is not where we need to be, but it is progress. And finally, Williams-Sonoma said, okay, we'll take it down. Finally, we are seeing the FTC gain a little bit of a spine because they were just saying made in the USA on all their furniture, and it wasn't. It was made in China. But the wins don't stop with the government. The wins continue in the private sector. Remember this? The Meta Quest? Remember how much fun we had making fun of Meta when they spent $4.3 billion in a quarter in 3 months and they made $440 million back, a $3.9 billion loss? By the way, this is this quarter. This isn't even the worst one. This isn't even back when they were doing it way more for $10 billion. Well, I have good news for you. Apple is having their sales tank for the Vision Pro. They have slashed the Vision Pro headset production and canceled updated headset as the sales tank. It turns out, other than YouTubers and Cybertruck owners, people don't really want to spend $3,500 on this headset. Now, will AR technology and VR technology eventually get somewhere useful? I believe so, yes. I think these companies are on a track that will get there eventually, but it is so fun to see them try to force it down mid-early at billion-dollar losses. Well, we all say, meh. To me, that is so pleasing. Here's a win for degenerates. Degenerate traders and gamblers, which I assume, based on your comments, all of you are. So for the longest time, for 100 years, the New York Stock Exchange has opened at 9:30 a.m. Eastern and closed at 4 p.m. And the entire financial world has operated on that timetable. people in the West Coast wake up early. People overseas, do you know, if you're a rich American, you buy American stocks. But if you're a rich European, you buy American stocks. But if you're a rich Japanese person, you buy, obviously, American stocks. So no matter where you are in the world, you actually buy and sell mostly American stocks. So the entire world is revolved around this timetable. For the degens, it's changing. The New York Stock Exchange is now testing round-the-clock, 24/7, 365 trading. You can buy and sell stock at any hour of any day. And you know what inspired this? Crypto. Apparently, the demand from people that traded crypto was so much that they wanted to have the same level of freedom to trading stocks and penny stocks, and honestly, a little bit scary. I don't think this is going to be a massive deal either way, so I'm calling it a win for degens. Regular people do not need more hours of day trading. And I do think, not that I care too much about them, this is going to destroy bankers' lives. I guess that's the win. It's going to destroy people that work in finances' lives because they already have to be on for these hours, no matter what, around the world. But now they're like basically have no time to sleep. We are living in a world where a company that's, you know, $1 trillion company like Nvidia can swing up and down $200 billion. That's 2 McDonald's of value in like a day. We are living in a crazy world where even big companies are so swingy that you have to be ready at all times. And these guys are going to have to be ready if this actually rolls out. We'll see. You know what? I would feel bad for Wall Street, but this next one is so relevant that I think it'll be okay. You guys know about skimpflation, right? It's the idea that a product might cost $5 and still cost $5, but they made the actual product cheaper, so they're saving money. They don't want to raise the price because then you'll get scared off. So they keep the price the same, but they keep the product quality going down. I don't know about you, but I fucking hate skimpflation. It sucks to see some product you used to like get shittier and worse. That's why I'm proud to say, as a win, there is one product that is not only not getting worse, it's getting actively better. Do you know what it is? Cocaine. Over the past few years, the retail price of cocaine has remained flat, while the purity of the cocaine has only gone up. A massive increase in purity for actually lower prices. What a steal! However, for us regular people, this chocolate example is not just an example. This is real. And I want to explain why. Now, when I was flying back from Tahiti, I watched a movie that I really regret watching. It was called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, starring Timothée Chalamet. It was terrible. But one plot point in the movie was that the evil chocolatier owners kept a secret underground vault of chocolate they used to bribe the police. And I said, that is so fucking stupid. Chocolate is not an appreciating asset. Turns out I was dead wrong. Turns out chocolate is an appreciating asset. Turns out chocolate futures are at all-time highs. And that is because recently there has been droughts in Western Africa where the cocoa bean is harvested. And these severe droughts and underinvestment have led to dramatic shortfalls in the amount of cocoa beans harvested. Because of that, we are getting a massive worldwide cocoa shortage. There is just less and less cocoa to go around. They are like absolutely skyrocketing. I mean, we are seeing $10,000 a ton when normally it's less than $2,000. They're 5 or 6 times more expensive. And chocolate is a low margin business. So this is already going to make most chocolate bars like uneconomical. They cannot run as they like. Mr. Beast Feastables could be in trouble. What does this mean for chocolate makers? They're trying a new recipe for all these chocolate bars you know and love. Less chocolate. They're making new treats where they don't use the expensive ingredient or a little bit or none at all. So now you're gonna have to buy a chocolate bar with less chocolate in it. The examples of this are actually all around us, but you may not notice them. For example, Reese's has been pushing the Caramel Big Cup, including a Super Bowl ad this year. It turns out this is because if they fill it up with caramel, they can take out the chocolate. Like, that's why they created this. This is because of the cocoa prices. When you hear about less chocolate, you might think of sad kids. But I have great news for you. And this is another Marketing Monday win. See, no matter what story came across my desk this week, I was determined to make it into a win. And so to this win is about the fact that, have you ever been on an airplane where there's crying kids? It sucks. Well, guess what? There's going to be fewer of those kids because US births just fell to their lowest level. Fewer crying children. The US fertility rate has dropped to all-time lows of 1.62. And if you were wondering why, it's not really important, but I guess it could be because of housing, job security, the cost of childcare. The important thing is you won't have that little stinker next to you on the plane crying because Bluey ended, okay? This is a big win. Now, this last one, I didn't quite know how to make this into a win. Do you like gambling? Yes. Do you kind of fear or are uneasy about old people? Right? So maybe you'll find this story to be a win because a gigantic hedge fund, Apollo Group, has been buying life insurance policies on old people and then doing everything they can to make sure they die sooner. It's one of the most fucked up stories I've ever heard. It is horrendous. Again, they are accused of illegal human life wagering, essentially making multi-billion-dollar bets by buying large anonymized life insurance policies on elderly, and then doing whatever is legally in their power, like, for example, making nursing homes of worse quality, buying data on an area to find that it has, like, worse health data than expected, and then making a bet they're gonna die sooner than expected. Literally depraved shit. Hopefully this lawsuit is a win against them, but we'll call it a win because gambling is fun and there's fewer old people. And finally, I have one more story for you to end on an actual feel-good story. You see, every now and then we put an ad in this show. Well, this one isn't for a product. It's for more of a, not even a man, more of an idea. And this is just a fun marketing thing I thought you'd all like to see. This man put up flyers all around New York that said, "Watch me eat this entire jar of cheese balls in Union Square Park on April 27th. Turns out more than a few people were interested. These ads worked. And I just want to say, what's so beautiful about it is he didn't make any money off it. He didn't promote his own personal brand. It wasn't even for a YouTube video, bro, which I can respect. I'm a YouTuber. He just did it for the love of the game. He didn't even show his face. He is the Batman we can actually have.
I am allergic to gluten. And today I will be eating this entire jar of cheese balls. Eat those balls. Eat those balls. Eat those balls.
So he ate the whole thing. He felt like he wanted to throw up, but he did it. Then he walked around with, cheesy dusted hands and high-fived everybody, and then got an absolutely global amount of press coverage. Never once did he reveal his name or identity. If he had one quote to say about the whole thing, it was this: "I decided to do this because I thought New York City could use something like this. Cheese balls are funny, and eating an entire jar of one is a difficult task, but not impossible." Thanks for watching Marketing Monday.